Hi, in this presentation we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, or EI. As we do so, we'll cover three major topics. First is just general definition of EI. Second, we'll go through the 5 dimensions of EI. And then finally, we'll talk about why EI is important. First, the definition of emotional intelligence. Well, EI, according to Wikipedia, is defined as the ability to assess and control the emotions of oneself, of others, and of groups. In his book, Essentials of Organizational Behavior by Stephen P. Robbins, he defines EI as referring to an assortment of non-cognitive skills, capabilities, and competencies that influence a person's ability to succeed in coping with the environmental demands and pressures. And I like to think of EI very simply as just knowing how not to be a jerk. The 5 dimensions of EI are self-awareness, self-management, self-motivation, empathy, and social skills. We'll talk about each of those real briefly here. Self-awareness is really where it all begins and is the key to emotional intelligence. It's not just knowing who you are and who you've been, who you've become. It's knowing who it is that you want to be and understanding what your abilities are. Right? In the movie Magnum Force, Clint Eastwood's character Dirty Harry says that a man's got to know his limitations. And I believe that. And it's not really a defeatist point of view. It's really trying to be realistic because we all do have limitations and it's important for us to understand what those are. As an example, I like to tell people that I refuse to be constrained by the shackles of choreography, which is a long way of saying I can't dance. I'm not a good dancer. I understand that. But if I really wanted to, I could push myself. I could go out and I could learn how to do the electric slide. I could probably learn how to tango, but I would never be a world-class dancer. It's just not something that I have in me, and I'm very well aware of that. Right? So, simple example, but important. It's important to understand what your limitations are. Right? Self-awareness is very critical, right? And it's often the first and the last place, or last point of failure for people because they either overestimate their abilities or they underestimate their abilities. So it's a real tricky balance to understand what your limitations are and then push a little bit beyond them. Self-management and self-motivation, I really lump together. They're 2 separate dimensions, but I lump them together, and they really are, to me anyways, don't really require a lot of explanation. They're pretty self-explanatory. But the main point of both of them, again, in my opinion, is that this: if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't really take care of others. And what I mean here is taking care emotionally. You have to take care of yourself emotionally in order to be able to take care of others emotionally. And you also have to be able to take care to do the things that are necessary in order to push yourself a little bit. Empathy is the 4th dimension of EI. And here empathy is, well, it's not enough to just listen to someone and tell them, oh, I feel your pain. I've been through something similar. Let me tell you about my experience. You know, when a person is talking to you about something, that's not really what they want to hear right then. It's not really what they need right then. They need somebody to not just listen, but to really empathize with what it is that they're going through or what it is they're trying to say. And I believe that in order to effectively empathize with someone, you really have to become somewhat of an actor. And I don't mean phony, I mean really an actor. If you think about what an actor does, the good ones anyways, the good actors really become the character that they're portraying. Right? They empathize with the character. They put themselves in the position, but they also sort of become that person or that character. And that's what I think is important to being effective with empathy, is you have to kind of become the person with whom you're trying to empathize, right? And then when you do that, when you become them, just for a moment, then you can better understand what it is that they're saying, what it is that they're going through, and what it is that they need. In effect, you empathize with them. All right, so empathy is very important to emotional intelligence. The final dimension of emotional intelligence is social skills. And it's not enough to just not pick your nose in public, right? It also doesn't mean that you have to be the life of the party every time you go to one. Right? Social skills really encompass everything around you. It's the environment, the situation, the people, everything that's around you at that moment in time. Right? The skills that you need to put on display in order to successfully maneuver your way through whatever the situation might be. Right? Sometimes that means getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah, as an example, you might be a very quiet type, and you might find yourself in a meeting or in a social setting where there are several quiet types there. And if everyone sitting around the table is quiet, the conversation is going to either be very boring, or if you're in a business situation, you're not going to identify whatever issues are facing you or find solutions to solve those issues. So someone has to take the lead, and that sometimes might be you. So you have to take yourself out of your comfort zone of being the quiet type and begin to take the lead in the conversation, or at least be a very active participant in the conversation. Conversely, you might be very extroverted and very talkative and find yourself in a situation where it's important to just slow down a bit and be quiet a little bit, listen a little bit, give others a chance to talk, let them have the floor. Maybe that's not comfortable for you, but it's often necessary. All right, so social skills, something that we all have to be very aware of and pay attention to in any setting, be it business or personal. All right, so those are the dimensions of EI. Why is EI important? Well, this is not really rocket science. You could probably guess most of these, right? But there are a few areas where emotional intelligence is very, very important. First of all, it's important to our physical health. There's a real tie between emotions and our physical health. So it's important there. It's important to our mental well-being. I think that probably goes without saying. It's important in our relationships, be they personal or business relationships. It's important for conflict resolution. It's often a key to success. And it's a key to effective leadership. So those are some of the reasons that EI is very important. In wrapping up, emotional intelligence may actually play more of a critical role in our lives than brain intelligence. You know, how many times have you sat back and thought about any given person that you might deem to be successful in any number of ways and think to yourself, gosh, I'm smarter than that person. You know, why is that person so successful and I don't feel like I am? Well, a good possibility is that you may be smarter than them from an IQ perspective, but they may have a higher emotional intelligence than you, and so that's something to think about. Right? We have the tools and the technology really literally at our fingertips that can help us to learn and to master trades and skills and information, but there's really nothing that can replace our ability to master our own emotions as well as the emotions of those around us, right? But it all begins with self-awareness. So start there. Think about self-awareness. There are many tools and products out there that can help you understand better who you are, who you want to become, and perhaps what your limitations are, and then perhaps some ways to push a little bit beyond those limitations. So good luck with improving your own emotional intelligence, and we'll see you next time.